Good afternoon and welcome back to Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching the closing bell. I'm Santosh Nair.
And I'm Yatin Mota.
Another day of gains for the market. The BSE Sensex and the Nifty closing above their respective psychological marks. The Sensex inching above the 60,000 mark and the Nifty closing above the 17,800 mark. But once again, choppy trade and largely lackluster as well. Among the gaining stocks, we had mostly shares from the auto, FMCG, realty and banking sectors, whereas metal shares were the only exception to the otherwise steady trend in the market today, the shares struggling through the session. And among prominent Nifty gainers today, we had Power Grid, Nestle India, Tata Consumer, Indocent and Larsen and Toubro, whereas among the losers of the day, we had Hindalco, Adani Ports, Bajaj Auto, Bajaj Finserv and NTPC.
एब्सोल्युटली एंड सेंटो जो रिजल्ट्स आ रहे हैं वो सेटिस्फैक्ट्री आ रहे हैं. आज भी मारुति के रिजल्ट्स आए, एक्सपेक्टेशंस के मुताबिक आए. ऑब्वियसली आज बजाज फाइनेंस पोस्ट मार्केट आज आएगा, इसके बाद एक्सिस बैंक है कल. तो मुझे लगता है सेंटो बाजार जो है वो ज़्यादा रिजल्ट्स पे फोकस कर रहा है. ऑब्वियसली रिएक्शंस कोई बड़े नहीं आ रहे हैं, लेकिन मोर और लेस जो अच्छे रिजल्ट्स आ रहे हैं, जो बाजार है वो शायद डाइजेशन फेज़ में है. और जैसे कि हमारे मैनेजिंग एडिटर अनुज सिंघल बोल रहे थे कि ये जो 17,800 का लेवल है वो मेक और ब्रेक लेवल है, और अगर यहाँ से बाजार अपटिक देता है स्पेशली एक्सपायरी के दिन, तो यहाँ से भी 100-200 पॉइंट का रैली होता हुआ दिखाई देगा. क्योंकि जनरली ऑब्जर्वेशन ये होता है कि जब सीरीज़ में अप ट्रेंड होता है और पूरी सीरीज़ में जब अप ट्रेंड होता है तो क्लोजिंग भी जो प्रीवियस मंथ का हाई है या जो रिसेंट हाई है उसके ऊपर होता है. तो 17,800 इंपॉर्टेंट लेवल, अच्छा क्लोज बाजार का, और शायद यहाँ से अगर बाजार को मोमेंटम पकड़ना है तो ये इंपॉर्टेंट लेवल देखने लायक होगा.
Yatin, globally, I don't think we may have seen the worst of the banking turmoil yet. If you look at how First Republic Bank shares have been faring, in fact, they crashed to a record low yesterday because the March quarter numbers showed that the outflow in deposits was far worse than what the market had feared. The numbers showed it around $70 odd billion.
Yes.
But if you were to adjust for the money that some of the other banks had put into First Republic Bank as a bailout measure, the outflows have actually been over $100 billion, which is quite huge. That apart, clearly there seems to be pressure on the smaller banks, and most market experts in US are saying that small banks will cut back on their lending very clearly, and this in turn is likely to put pressure on the economy. We are already seeing large number of job cuts now slowly picking up. It had begun with the tech sector, but now we are seeing it in some of the other sectors as well. So globally, it looks like the US economy is inching towards a recession slowly but steadily, and that could have repercussions for other markets including India as well.
Truly, and US markets yesterday were down, but I think post the market hours there were two big earnings, because of which probably there could be some traction on the positive side for the US market. Let's see, because the result season there also has begun, so the markets there also are focusing on some earnings.
And with that, we move on to the stocks on our spot list this afternoon. Starting off with HDFC AMC, no respite there for the asset management company. A tepid set of fourth quarter numbers, net profit just about slightly higher on a sequential basis, whereas top line was slightly lower quarter on quarter. Now, this has been a very divergent trend. Mutual funds seeing strong inflows, especially consistent inflows through systematic investment plans, but that still does not seem to be reflecting in their numbers yet. They have underperformed for quite some time, and it does look like this trend could continue for some more time. Morgan Stanley has retained its equal weight rating on HDFC AMC. It has a price target of 1,840. Morgan Stanley's main argument is that the competition is quite stiff, and because of that the profitability could face headwinds. But more than just the competition itself, there is also the regulatory overhang, particularly with the Securities and Exchange Board of India trying to get funds to reduce their total expense ratio which they charge their unit holders. Now there is also talk that AMCs may have to foot their own broking operations. So this and many other moves are something that investors are worried about at this point in time, because clearly things not looking very bright for asset management companies at this juncture, despite the fact that overall investor interest in mutual funds continue to be on the rise.
Clearly, and that is the story for HDFC AMC. But Santo, आज जो फोकस था वो गुजरात बेस्ड कंपनीज का था. गुजरात गवर्नमेंट ने एक नई पॉलिसी अनाउंस की जिसके अंदर गुजरात की जो स्टेट PSUs हैं इनको बोनस, डिविडेंड, बायबैक और स्टॉक स्प्लिट डोल आउट करना होगा और एक शेयर होल्डर फ्रेंडली एनवायरनमेंट बनाना होगा. और इसीलिए अगर आप देखें अक्रॉस द बोर्ड आज गुजरात बेस्ड जो PSU कंपनीज हैं यहाँ आपको पॉजिटिव मोमेंटम देखने को मिला. यहाँ स्पेसिफिकली बात करूँगा GSFC की, और इसके बारे में हमने हमारे चैनल पे भी डिस्कशन किया कि नई पॉलिसी के बाद शायद इस कंपनी के शेयर होल्डर्स को फ़ायदा हो. कैसे हो? क्योंकि GSFC होल्डिंग कंपनी है और इनके पास शेयर्स हैं GNFC के, GIPCL के, गुजरात गैस के और गुजरात एल्कलीज के. और ये कंपनी जब बड़ा डिविडेंड देंगी तो ये डिविडेंड जो है GSFC के बुक्स पे आएगा. और यहाँ भी अगर हम देखें तो ये फ़ायदा होगा ही. कंपनी की मार्केट कैप है करीब 5,800 करोड़ और होल्डिंग वैल्यू जो है इन्वेस्टमेंट्स की वो 4,000 करोड़ रुपए के ऊपर है. इसके अलावा कंपनी के बैलेंस शीट पे कैश और सब्सिडी रिसीवेबल्स जो हैं वो 2,000 करोड़ रुपए के ऊपर हैं. तो मार्केट कैप से ज़्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट्स और कैश की वैल्यू. और अगर ये कंपनियां डिविडेंड डोल आउट करती हैं जो 5 से 10% डिविडेंड यील्ड के पास आने की शक्यता है, और अगर ये होता है तो शायद ये कंपनी 30 से 50 रुपए के बीच में डिविडेंड देने की क्षमता रखती है अगले कुछ सालों में. मार्केट का प्राइस है करीब 150 रुपये और एक बड़ा डिविडेंड यहाँ आपको देखने को मिल सकता है आने वाले दिनों में. और शायद इसी एंटिसिपेशन में आज स्टॉक में लगभग 20% की तेजी थी.
Well, I would say it's a kind of a mixed blessing. On one hand, it may be good news for shareholders, at least in the short term, but I'm not so sure, Yatin, if policies like this work over the longer term. Ultimately, whether a company should be paying dividend or not, or these kind of decisions, it should be left to the management and not, it can't be a government directive very clearly. So, my own gut is that probably over the next few days, you could see markets probably reacting adversely to it. You were seeing some easy gains out here, but whether they can sustain on the back of this announcement alone, I'm not so sure about that.
But if you look at the policy and if you look at Gujarat PSU Santo for a particular reason, CLSA had come out with the report many months back that how Gujarat PSUs typically outperform other PSU stocks. And you know, if the dividend distribution policy which the government has made a policy, and you know, in all likelihoods we could see the implementation coming in, because Hasmukh Adhia, who is an advisor to the chief minister, probably he also has a hand in, you know, formulating this policy, is what news reports were suggesting earlier, because he also was looking at strategic divestments of various state PSUs. That was the Times of India report a few months back, if I remember that correctly. हाँ, जैसे सेंटो कह रहे हैं, अगर इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हुई पॉलिसी तो एक डिसअपॉइंटमेंट हो सकती है, लेकिन हाँ, अगर इम्प्लीमेंट किया पॉलिसी और ये PSUs अच्छा कैश डोल आउट करती हैं शेयर होल्डर्स को, तो एक वेल्थ क्रिएशन की अपॉर्चुनिटी भी बन सकती है शॉर्ट टर्म में.
And with that, the last stock on my watch list this afternoon is IPCA Labs. The stock has again taken a beating today. It had fallen sharply yesterday also, and today it has extended those losses, stock closing lower by close to about 6%. Now, IPCA had announced stake buy in Unichem Labs, 33% at a little over 1,000 crores, and that has not gone down very well with the market. The general view in the market is that the company may have overpaid for the stake in Unichem. According to Moneycontrol Pro analyst Anubhav Sahu, the company still has a lot of work to do in terms of extracting synergies from this stake buy. So, that will take some time to actually reflect in the earnings of IPCA, but at the same time it is going to pay that cash upfront. Besides that, there's also the fact that the API market has not been doing as well for some time now, although it's showing some signs of bottoming out, and to reduce its dependence on API, IPCA has been trying to strengthen its domestic formulations business. It's been investing heavily out there, increasing its field staff, but all these again mean that there could be expenses in the near term. So, these factors could possibly keep investors a little tentative when it comes to IPCA Lab. On the positive side, the valuations, because of the steep correction seen in the last couple of trading sessions, are now at a discount to its long term averages, but will investors bite? That is the big question at this stage.
Absolutely, and this stock has been disappointing, you know, after the acquisition that they announced. You know, the stock has been consistently falling because brokerages felt that 1,800 crores, which the money they would, you know, look at by acquiring Unichem Labs, there could be a serious capital allocation issue here, because probably they could have used this cash in a much better fashion in some other way. So yes, there was a disappointment. But the last stock on my list now is MCX. स्टॉक आज FNO का टॉप लूजर बना. स्टॉक में लगभग आपने 5 से 6% की मंदी देखी, और ये इसीलिए देखी क्योंकि शशांक साठे जो कंपनी के चीफ टेक्नोलॉजी ऑफिसर हैं या CTO थे, इन्होंने रिज़ाइन कर दिया है. और रेजिग्नेशन एक नेगेटिव चीज़ इसलिए मानी जाती है क्योंकि कंपनी जो है TCS के सॉफ्टवेयर पे माइग्रेट हो रही है, जो पहले 63 मून्स यानी फाइनेंशियल टेक्नोलॉजीज पहले देती थी. और ये ट्रांजिशन के बीच में ही CTO का रेजिग्नेशन एक बड़ा झटका है, और ये बाजार को पसंद नहीं आया, और शायद यहाँ थोड़ा बहुत प्रेशर और भी आपको बनता हुआ दिखाई दे सकता है एनालिस्ट की राय में. तो एक CTO का रेजिग्नेशन काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट ट्रांजिशन के बीच में, जिसकी वजह से आज स्टॉक में बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर आपने शुरुआती ट्रेडिंग सेशन से ही आता हुआ देखा.
Well, and with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Closing Bell. Thank you for watching.
जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
We'll be back with you again at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.